A year ago, if you asked me about my future, I would have had a very different perspective than I do today. A year ago, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you. I had a secret that I didn't want to share. Today, I'm here to tell you about this secret, one of my greatest weaknesses, but also one of my biggest strengths. I'm here to tell you about the lessons I've learned and the challenges I've faced. But most of all, I'm here to remind you that sometimes your weakest points can be the most powerful, precious pieces of you, and you can use them to change the world. Look at me. Now look around. I probably don't look too different from anyone else in this room, but looks can be deceiving. I have epilepsy, a neurological disorder that causes a person to have seizures. Over 65 million people worldwide also have epilepsy. Now, some of you may not know what a seizure is. It's kind of like an electrical storm in your brain. They come in many different shapes and forms, but I only have two kinds, simple partial and clonic tonic. The simple partial ones aren't quite as bad because to everyone else it just looks like I'm zoning out, but the clonic tonic ones are scary. I stop breathing, my vision fuzzes up, and then I don't remember anything. But I believe it can be even scarier for those watching me. They see my eyes roll back, I fall to the ground, my arms and legs start jerking, and I stop breathing. And sometimes I even make grunting noises. The worst part is seeing people's faces afterwards. Usually it's only my family, and what I see in them is concern. But when I'm looking into the eyes of a stranger, I see fear. I can't blame them, it's a scary thing to see, but I also can't help thinking, me? Are they afraid of me? In the middle of grade 4, my family moved from Vancouver, where I'd lived my entire life, to Summerland. We used to come up to Summerland in the summer, and I loved it. The scrumptious fresh fruit, the glimmering Okanagan Lake, and the sunshine. However, when we moved there, I became not so fond of it. The kids were different, although that was probably only because they weren't the same kids I'd grown up with my whole life, but still, I wasn't sure where I'd fit in. Everyone already seemed to have a stable group of friends. Don't get me wrong, I still had fun with the other kids, and I even made a few best friends, but as comfortable as I got, I never told anyone I had epilepsy. You'd think someone who was diagnosed when they were 5 would be used to telling people by the time they were 11, but the fear of being judged and losing my friends stopped me. I cared more about what people thought of me than my own safety. This continued on through middle school, except it got even worse. The medication I was on was horrible, not unlike most anticonvulsants. It made me irritated, dazed, confused, and painfully shy. I lost a lot of friends and was doing poor in my classes. It was so hard to think straight. Nevertheless, I survived middle school, and by the time high school rolled around, I was doing a bit better. I was nearly 2 years seizure-free, and I was happy to be given a clean slate. Sure, I still didn't tell anyone I had epilepsy, but I didn't think I really needed to. I was even scheduled for a week-long EEG to figure out if I even still had epilepsy. Through all of this, I created a blog. It was nice to just pour my frustration into a blog post every once in a while. I called it Sandpaper Smiles. A bit of a strange name, people told me, but I had my reasons. Before I have a seizure, I get a little bit of warning, something called an aura. Auras have extreme variety between person to person. For some people, it can be a smell. For some, a feeling. But for me, I see what looks like purple sandpaper. So Sandpaper Smiles, because even though I had this little flaw in myself, I kept on smiling. Finally, I was admitted for my week-long EEG. I was placed in a white, spacious hospital room with a video camera monitoring me. It wasn't the most comfortable place to be, but I'm happy that I had to be there, for the lessons I learned would soon change my life. Throughout the course of the week, I had a joint bathroom with the other room in which they did video monitoring, and although I never actually of the patients staying in that room, I could tell they had it worse off than I. They were having multiple seizures a day. The most seizures I've ever had in one day was 13, and that was unbearable. I couldn't imagine going through that over and over and over again. So I knew that something had to change. I was being silly by not telling people I had epilepsy. It was silly to think that I was ashamed of something that was such a big part of me, for better or for worse. So when I came back to Summerland, I decided to start with something simple: a garage sale. I posted posters up all over town and invited some of my friends to come help me out. Little did I know that that day would change my life. I met my best friend Dan, and from there the Epilepsy Awareness Squad was created. We started off as just a small neighborhood club, a group of 4 teens who were eager to travel around to different farmers markets and festivals, selling crafts my grandma made to raise money for epilepsy research, while also bringing awareness and education as to what epilepsy really was. By the time 6 months rolled around, we even held our own gala and raised over $2,000, something that I wouldn't ever even dreamed of when I had my first idea. But through all of this, the thing that touched me the most was meeting so many other people who were eager to start talking about it, hearing the different battles they'd faced, and how with just that little bit of impact with and the epilepsy awareness, I've been able to change a few lives. And I definitely changed my own. So as I had so many people all over the world who also had epilepsy, I decided to do some research on what epilepsy was like from a global perspective, and what I found astonished me. Did you know that 9 out of 10 people living with epilepsy in Africa go untreated? Respond so well to treatment, it was crazy to think that people weren't getting the treatment they needed. As well as 80% of people living with epilepsy are found in developing countries. As I said before, 65 million people worldwide have epilepsy, but this number is likely much larger. Even here in Canada, people are scared to report it. For example, I asked my own school district, how many people have epilepsy? And they told me only 8. 8 people in a school district of 6,000. I thought, how can this be? I know of 4 people in the little town of Summerland alone who have epilepsy, and we only have 4 of the 17 schools in our district. So just imagine how hard it can be to get a number for the entire world. Learning this really opened my eyes up to the bigger picture. Through this experience, I've had the opportunity to meet so many inspiring people, some of my idols and lots of strangers who've touched my heart. As more people started hearing about us, we began traveling around to different conferences and events. I felt like I'd been holding myself back for so long, and I'd finally set myself free. Every day now, I wake up loving the world I live in. I am full of so much gratitude for my awesome adventures, for my amazing friends, and for everything. Even though I still have epilepsy, and I still have seizures sometimes, I became a better person and a better friend, and I started to love myself again. But still, there were so many injustices in the world. We had provided a place for people with epilepsy to go, but I knew do so much more. So I teamed up with my best friend Dan again, and together we created the Youth Empowerment Project. It was a simple idea, a community of youth helping youth. It was a platform for youth to share their change-making ideas and get the support that they need to put them into action, whether it be as simple as making the cafeteria at your school more healthy, or as complex as solving world hunger. Together, we could do anything. Just in the end, it was my weakness that made me stronger. The world make an even stronger place, a place of sustainability and survival, a place to safely call home. It all starts with the little people, like you. The littlest people who make the biggest change. Young people are like superheroes. We can be invincible, only sometimes we let our secret identity get in the way. So I leave you to the message. If we unite forces, we can make this world a better place, a place with name and with secrets, an even more beautiful earth, both for our generation and who come after. Together,